Okay, guys, I know I'm not there today, but I wanted to make sure that you were able to still get the notes that you need. So we're going to be doing 6.2 notes today about polynomial vocabulary. What I want you to do first is go ahead and copy down the two definitions for terms and polynomials, and after that we will go through and talk about what those examples mean. So pause the video just a second, copy that down. All right, so you've heard me say things with terms before. For instance, when I say combine like terms, it means combine the pieces. It could be a single number, could be like a 5, could be a single letter like an x squared, that would be a term, or it could be a number and a letter together. Sometimes we might have something like 5x squared. Each one of those is a term. So to tell when they're separated, we have to look for the plus and minuses. If I look at something like x plus 5, that's two terms. They're separated with the plus sign. Okay? All right, so when we talk about polynomials, what that means is many terms. Poly means many, nomial means terms. So we could have just one term, something like x over 2, or we could have multiple terms, something like x squared minus 6x plus 5. Okay? Could be one term, could be 10 terms. Polynomial just means many terms. Okay? So how do we know if something is a polynomial? Well, it's going to be a polynomial anytime you do not have an x or a variable in the denominator. So a polynomial never have variables in the denominator. So if I was to give you an example of something that is a polynomial, that would be like 2x over 5 plus 3x. It's fine for us to have fractions, have variables, but we can't have a variable in the denominator. The 5 is fine. Something bad that we would not consider a polynomial is something like 2 over x plus 5x. This time, the x is in the denominator, it's in the bottom. That makes it not a polynomial, sorry. Okay. Pause that, make sure you have everything written down, and we'll move to the bottom. All right, so when it comes to classifying polynomials, many terms is a general name, polynomials. But we also have certain more specific types. We have monomials, mono meaning one. We have binomials, meaning two terms, or trinomials, meaning there are three terms. You can think about that like a bicycle has two wheels, a tricycle has three wheels. Okay, so that just says how many chunks there are in the polynomial. Monomial would be things again like a 5 or an x or a negative 2x to the third. All of those are still one single monomial. If there's two chunks in a piece or two terms, that's called a binomial. 5x plus x squared. There are two terms, that's a binomial. Another example of that might be 6x plus y. Two terms separated by a plus sign, that's a binomial. Same thing for trinomial, we're just going to add an extra piece. 5x squared plus x minus 2, that's a trinomial, three terms. Let's mix this one up just a little bit. 5x over 2 plus y minus 1. All different kinds of terms, but they're separated by plus or minus. That's a trinomial. Pause the screen, make sure you have everything written down, and I'll meet you on the back page. All right, so why don't you take just a second and go ahead and write down all of these definitions, and then I will explain what's going on. So write down what you see. Okay, so when we talk about degrees, we're talking about the exponents in our polynomials. That's what degree means, not like the weather, it's talking about exponents. Okay, so if I ask you to find the degree of a monomial, that means I'm only talking about one single term. Okay, so the degree is the sum, again, sum means that we're adding, the sum of the exponents on the variables. We do not count the front numbers. So first example is pretty straightforward. We're not going to worry about the 8, we can just ignore him. Okay, all I want to know is what are all the exponents on that one term? Well, the only thing we have is 3. so our degree is 3. Okay, that's straightforward. Same thing on the second problem. We're not going to worry about the 4 because he's not a variable. So if I say, what are the exponents in that term? We have a 2 and a 4. The sum of those exponents makes the degree a 6. But what about for that last one? What are the exponents on the variables? Well, there's no variables. So if I ask you to find the sum of nothing, our degree would just be 0. Okay? Take a second, pause the screen if you need to. Make sure you have all that written down. All right, we're almost done. Looking down at the next part, it says the degree of a polynomial. Okay, so now we're not just talking about one term. Now we have the whole polynomial. There might be 2 terms, there might be 3 terms, there might be 5 terms. We don't know. But all we're going to do is we're going to find the degree of each individual term and then write down what the highest number is. The way that looks is if we look at the first term, okay, only this guy, 3x squared. His degree is 2. That's the only exponent. For the second guy, he has a 2 and a 1. So his is going to be 3. Which one of those numbers is higher? This guy. So my degree is 3. Hopefully that makes sense. We're finding each individual degree and then just choosing the highest number. Let's try the next one. 7x. Well, I only have one exponent, so his degree is 1. Same thing on the middle. There's only one exponent, so his degree is 2. But on that last one, we have 3 different variables, so 3 different exponents. The x has a 1, the y has a 1, and the z has a 3. So 1 plus 1 plus 3 makes that degree 5. 5 is the biggest one of those options, so 5 is my degree. It won't always come at the end. It could be in the middle. Usually it's actually at the beginning, but right now you're just looking for which one has the highest degree. Last one. So 5x squared y. We have an x with the second power, y to the first power. That means that degree is 3. Middle term. X has a 1, y has a 1. That degree is 2. Last guy, negative 2xy squared. The x has a 1, the y has a 2. That degree is 3. In this case, we have a couple that are the same. These two both have the same degree. So we're just going to say the degree is 3. They're both the same. They're both the highest. So our degree is 3. Okay. Pause the screen for just a second. Make sure you have everything written down, knowing where those numbers come from. And we're going to do the last part together. All right, so this setup is going to be the same kind of thing that your homework has. So I'm going to color code this. First thing we're going to do is decide if that piece or that term is a polynomial. Okay, so remember, to be a polynomial, it means you cannot have a variable in the denominator. So if I ask us on this one, is number 1 a polynomial? Well, there's no fractions at all. So that would be a yes. He is a polynomial. Problem 2, we have this fraction right here. And if I look, there is a variable in the denominator. So he is not a polynomial, no, because there is an x in the denominator. We're not going to answer any more questions about number 2 because he's not a polynomial. We can't classify it. We can't give the degree. He's not a polynomial at all, so we're done with number 2. Okay? Problem 3, there is a fraction, but are there any variables in the denominator? No. So this guy is a polynomial. Yes, he is. We've answered the first question. Let's try the second one. It says to classify. If I'm going to classify the polynomial, that has to do with how many terms there are. So on problem 1, he's a polynomial. There are 1, 2, 3 terms. We're not going to write 3. We're going to write the word for him. He is a trinomial. 3 terms means trinomial. Notice I counted every single time there was a plus or minus. I broke up the terms. We're not going to answer on number 2. He's not a polynomial at all. But number 3 is. So we have 1 term, skip over the plus, 2 terms, skip over the minus, 3 terms. He is also a trinomial. We have 1 piece left to our question. You're going to have 3 parts to the questions. The last one is the degree. Remember that when we're answering for degree, we have to find the highest degree out of that whole polynomial. We have to find each term and then figure out which one's higher. Okay? So on this first guy, we have a 2 plus a 1 plus a 3. That's going to make 6. The middle one, we have a 1 and a 4. That makes 5. Last term, we just have a 1. Obviously, the highest number in there is our 6, so that is our degree answer. That's the degree for the whole polynomial. Number 2 doesn't have a polynomial at all, so we don't answer that question. Last one, our degree on the first term, we have a1, b1, that makes it 2. Middle term, 14a, b to the 7th, has a 1 and a 7, that makes 8. Last term has 17, a squared, b to the 3rd, c squared. So 2 plus 3 plus 2 is a 7. That still makes our highest degree the 8. That's the highest number that we have. Okay? Remember to answer all 3 parts of the question on your homework. Your homework / what you are doing in class is 6.2 practice. This should go very smoothly. It is due before you leave. Okay, the substitute is going to put a 10 on the top of your paper. Please make sure that you have made your best effort to answer all of those questions. Okay, it shouldn't take you very long. You guys have a good weekend. Sorry I missed you, but hopefully this assignment isn't too tricky.